What's up, graphic designers? In this video tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to add dialogue and how to create dialogue bubbles in our 4-panel comic strip. So we're going to create something that looks a little bit like this. It's fairly simple, relatively straightforward, and I notice when I look in the layers panel, and let's open this up just a tad. All right, we've got the panels layer on the top, and then we've got text, and then it's kind of difficult to see, but we've got these word bubbles right here, and then all the individuals, the characters, quote unquote, and then we've got the background on the bottom. All right, so how exactly do we add this text? Well, I'm going to go through line by line, and here I'm saying that's absurd to Cole. I'm going to return to Photoshop, and what we're going to need to do is always add the text before we create the word bubble. So I'm going to press Command V to paste it in, and I notice right now that it's on right aligned, so I'm going to actually make it left aligned so it hugs the edge of this panel. That looks great, and I'm going to shift it down a little bit so it's got some space between the top and the bottom. I'm going to press check to confirm. Now this is important. I'm going to go to the layer right underneath the text. In this case it's layer 12. I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to go to the elliptical marquee. I'm going to click and drag, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold spacebar, and I remember that when we hold spacebar we can shift that selection around, and that looks good. So here's me saying that's absurd, and I'm going to release, and now we're going to switch from the elliptical marquee to the polygonal lasso, and this is also critical. You need add to selection selected. All right, we're going to left click once, twice, 3, and then 4 times to seal it up. And so there's the outline of this shape. That looks wonderful. And because we're on a new layer, we're on layer 13, I'm going to right click and we're going to select stroke. I would recommend that the width is 10 pixels. We want it black to be the color, so you should have black as the foreground color in the toolbar. I'm going to press OK, and that looks great, and we're almost done. I'm going to now right click one more time. We're going to select fill, and the default for you probably is content aware. We don't want to fill it content aware. Instead, we're going to fill it with white. We're going to simply press OK, and then we got to deselect, Command D. Last step is to use the eraser tool, and you want to simply erase any part of the dialog bubble that's drifting over into that other panel. And I'm going to use the move tool by pressing V and shift this text up just a tad. Easy. Let's do this a few more times. And then Cole says, why? What do you eat? So I'm going to press T. I'm going to make sure I press Command V to paste. I'm going to shift this over just a tad. And I can see that it's left aligned, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Enter to do a line break. And we don't want that. And that looks good right there. So I'm going to shift this text. Oops. We're going to shift this text down just a tad. Beautiful. All right, ladies and gentlemen, super important. New layer after you write that text. New layer, elliptical marquee. We're going to add this text. I'm sorry, this ellipse. Switch to the polygonal lasso. Click 1, 2, 3, 4 to seal it up. Right click. We're going to do stroke. We're going to do the width of 10 pixels. We're going to make sure it's on the outside, color black, press OK. Right click, fill. Make sure the content is white. Command D to deselect. And then I'm going to switch to the rectangular marquee. And instead of using the eraser tool this time, I'm just going to make a selection and then press delete. Easy. Beautiful. And I'm going to move this text over. Amazing. So let's keep going. And I say the same thing everyone enjoys. I'm going to copy it, Command C, T, left click, Command V, line break, Enter, shift this down, press check to confirm, layer 14, the layer underneath all that text, right, new layer, switch back to elliptical marquee, create a selection. I'm holding spacebar to shift this around, to move it around. I'm going to use the polygonal lasso, making sure that add to is selected. 1, 2, 3, 4, sealed up, right click, stroke. 10 pixels. Okay, right click. Fill. This is easy. Okay, boom, and then eraser tool. Bam. We're almost done. Cole says cheese, pepperoni, and I'll return to Photoshop. Okay. Beautiful. I'm going to do line break. Oops. Let's do this. All right, beautiful. And here what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Command A. And when I shift this down, I'm going to make sure it's right aligned because that's a better use of the space. I'm going to put this right here. I'm going to press check to confirm. New layer, elliptical marquee. I'm going to make a selection. I'm holding spacebar to move it around. I'm releasing spacebar just like we do in class. Polygonal lasso, 1, 2, 3, 4, right click. Yo, Cole is really serious about this. He's like, cheese? In fact, maybe based on this image, I'm going to modify Command D to deselect, of course. Cheese? This dude needs to know. Cheese? Pepperoni? What is it? This kid wants to know. All right. And so making sure that we're on that correct dialog bubble, and I'm going to erase that edge right here. All right, so we just did 2 panels together. I got 1 panel to go, so this is extremely important, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to need a title. So let's just call this, we'll call this toppings, and I don't see it, but I know that when I pull this down, I can see it, it's right there. So I'm going to return this right here. I'm going to push check to confirm, and I'm going to click and drag toppings. I'm going to make sure it's above that panels layer, right? That makes sense. And so what you're going to need is a title, and then it's going to be by your name, by Andrew Droz. You're going to do first name, last name. All right, and I'm going to make sure that this text is left aligned. There we go. So that looks good, and then you have to put the date. And so what I'm going to do is we could just put April 2020. Okay, beautiful. And you're going to put the date on the right side. Now listen up. This is super important, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to save this as a PSD. So I'll do File, Save As. We're going to do first name, last name, Andrew Droz, comic, PSD. Beautiful. And then you're going to save it as a JPEG. So we did it once as a PSD, as a Photoshop file. We want to keep those layers. Next as a JPEG. All right, and last but not least, what you need to do is save it as a JPEG, except you're going to hide the title of your comic, and you're going to hide all of the dialogue, all right? So what you're going to do is the last thing that you're going to submit is something that looks a little bit like this, but with no dialogue, and I'm going to do File, Save As, and I'm going to write no dialogue. Or no words. We'll just keep it simple. Dialogue is tricky to spell, especially for me. And I'm going to press OK. Boom. And here's why. You're going to submit your work to me, and then later on this week, you are going to be adding text to one of your classmates' comics. So we're going to have each comic strip is going to have multiple stories. Let me know if you have any questions. I cannot wait to see your work. Good luck.